Welcome to this workshop here in October on overcoming burnout. This was a topic that was requested from some of our members because whether it's at work or at home, burnout appears to be a common experience that people are having. So, as a member of the EQ crew, the idea of applying emotional intelligence to overcome burnout popped up, and so we're doing a workshop on that this month. So let's dive into what we're going to be covering today. Let us get into that. What are we covering? So today we're going to be talking about identifying the signs of burnout, a reflection exercise on what burnout entails. And we're also going to be talking about how your personality relates to burnout and how to cope effectively. So that will be what's going to be super key for us as we walk through this workshop on burnout. So let's get started. All right. What exactly is burnout? Okay. More often than not, this type of term is associated with workplace type experiences. I know personally at my last two jobs, I've had coworkers experiencing burnout, and this dramatically impacted the team. And this type of impact ultimately led people to resigning and hurting the overall production and activity of the workplace. Now, it doesn't just happen in the workplace, though. It happens at home, right? It happens all types of places. And it's because burnout has a lot to do with your emotions, has a lot to do with how you are going about managing your emotions. Okay? So in psychology, texts and research has defined burnout as a state of emotional, mental, and often physical exhaustion brought on by prolonged or repeated stress. All right. The key in that phrase is prolonged or repeated stress. Okay. When you are under a state of stress for long periods of time, it will deplete your resources, your mental resources, emotional resources, and in some cases, your social resources, right? What's a social resource? Your job, friendships, relationships. Those all can be impacted if you are burnt out. So this is a really big topic that we need to address, and we can use our tools like emotional intelligence and personality type to better understand how we can overcome it. So let's start with trying to understand what are the emotions we associate with burnout, okay? What are the emotions we associate with burnout? Now, one of my favorite tools is the emotion wheel, and as you're taking a look at this wheel, think about the last time you experienced burnout, or if you're experiencing it now. And take a moment to answer this question. What emotion or emotions are you frequently experiencing when you feel burnt out? Again, what emotion or emotions are you frequently experiencing when you feel burnt out? I am taking a look at a few of these. And one that jumps out to me is exasperated, a feeling of exasperation, right? Like I have put in a lot of effort and I'm not getting a lot out of it, and I'm physically drained, and this is just not adding up. I'm not doing well in this space. I'm not feeling well. Another emotion I often associate with burnout is the feeling of frustration. Right? Feeling like I can't help my situation. And that frustration can sit. Now that you've identified, some of these emotions you experience when you feel burnt out, that is a big step in this process. Now, a lot of folks, when they feel burnt out, there's oftentimes coping mechanisms that one resorts to that doesn't actually help the situation. And today we're going to talk about how you can practice healthy coping mechanisms in order to help your situation, and specifically what coping mechanisms you can based on your personality. Okay, so it's going to be specifically for you, not just a broad solution. And this is important because our emotional experiences are personal, right? Emotions are not the same, in terms of how people experience them, right? One person can experience excitement. Another person can be experiencing anxiety. However, they feel the same in the body. So it's important to really get a handle on what meaning are you making by this experience of feeling burnt out. All right. So let's press on ahead here and think about some common feelings and emotions associated with feeling burnt out. All right. So the first, feeling overwhelmed. You got way too much stuff to do and you don't have enough time to get it all done. There are certain personality types that often get overwhelmed a lot because they don't know their own limits. Feeling tired or drained most of the time. This could be a sign that you're using up all your energy and not taking the time to recover that energy. It's like having a phone and you're using it all the time, scrolling on this app, that app, using it for this, and that, and not plugging it back in to get the recharge it needs. You may find yourself procrastinating a lot. This is often tied to feeling overwhelmed. If you got way too many tasks to take on that seem like they are more advanced tasks, like they're not just simple tasks like move this sheet of paper to that side of the desk, this can lead to procrastination and can lead to an accumulation of a lot of different things to do. Another sign, feeling helpless, trapped, and defeated. This is something I mentioned when I experienced burnout. Feeling helpless, like I can't even take a step to even make a dent in this type of feeling, right? I feel trapped in this space because, maybe I'm going to a job that, I need it because of the money, but I'm not able to leave this job because, I don't know where I'm gonna find another job. Feeling defeated, like, wow, throwing the hands up. There's nothing I can do about this. That's the number one phrase in feeling defeated. There is nothing I can do about it. Having a negative outlook, often tied to the feeling I just talked about. Pessimism, having this sense of, you know what, this is the worst. It'll always be like this, right? That negative outlook is also another sign of burnout. And lastly, feeling detached and alone in the world. This is a tough one because when we talk about the implications, the impact of burnout, rarely do we ever consider the social aspect of burnout, in that it can have us feeling like we're alone, like no one cares or no one can really do anything. So therefore, I just need to step away and try and figure this out on my own. These are some common signs of burnout. And as you think about the feelings that or the emotions that you highlighted when you feel burnt out, are they tied to any of these signs? Because if you're experiencing this workshop, you need to realize whether or not you're burnt out. Again, remember, burnout means you're experiencing a prolonged or repeated level of stress, and you're often exhausted, okay? If you are burnt out based on responding to this question and kind of assessing, okay, these are common emotions I experience, then you're going to want to pay attention because what I'm going to share is going to help you overcome that burnout. All right. And we're going to build some tactics, some strategies that you can use to reduce or prevent. That's a big one. Preventing burnout. All right. We're going to talk about some preventative ways that burnout can't show up anymore. So the prevention piece, but also the deeper understanding of burnout stems from this question. How is burnout related to your personality? This is one of my favorite things to unpack because I believe, and the research shows, your personality is related to so much. Your internal world, right? Your outer world, right? Your social world. Your personality is a means between what's going on within you and what's going on outside of you, okay? And I subscribe to the idea that personality is a set of preferences that we formed over time. And it forms a typical behavior or typical expressions that we have. So how exactly is your personality related to burnout? How? Well, I'm going to tell you. All right? As we know, burnout is a feeling of exhaustion and dealing with prolonged stress. Your personality is tied to that because your stress looks different based on how you think and how you operate, right? What stresses Joe Schmo out may not stress out Sally Sue, right? So burnout is specific to you and your personality. And we need to unpack that a little further, right? So here's a little activity we're going to do. I need you to grab a pen or paper, grab a book, a journal, something, or grab your phone, and I want you to write down 3 to 5 frequent stressors in your day-to-day life. What are 3 to 5 things that constantly stress you out over a long period of time? So take a few moments and think about that. 3 to 5 stressors in your day-to-day life that last for a long time. Now, once you have that written down, the next thing we want to do is start to understand what these stressors are. Now, I'm going to share a few stressors of mine. A common stressor that tends to pop up in my life often is that I have so many ideas that I want to act on that I sometimes wound up not acting on any of them. So I overwhelm myself sometimes. And I happen to have the persona of an innovator. Okay? Take a look at what the innovator typically likes to do. Okay? Likes to plan stuff, develop systems and models, teach, do research, focus on theoretical systems, design systems. I like ideas. Ideas are my toys, okay? But the challenge is because I have so many, I can get overwhelmed with putting it all into action. And then I wound up getting exhausted. I wound up not getting enough sleep. I wound up not taking care of my body because I'm so overinvested in this ideation, and I'm not balancing that out with taking care of myself and also executing on some of those ideas. If you can relate to that, drop a comment somewhere, react to this, especially if you're an innovator like me. But I'm curious for you in the audience, right? When you think about your persona, by the way, if you don't know your persona, you can go to InMotion.com and click on Self-Discovery Tools and take the Shining Persona quiz to find out if you're an enforcer, innovator, guider, or giver. There are common stressors for each of these personas, and I'm going to show you them. The typical stressors for each of these personas are the following. If you're an enforcer, meaning you have a preference for sensing and thinking within the Myers-Briggs Jungian model of the psyche, a common stressor for enforcers is uncertainty. This level of uncertainty is significant in an enforcer's world because they don't know where to allocate their effort. Enforcers like to get their hands dirty. They like to get into the problem solving, right? But if they don't know what the problem actually is, it's going to leave them feeling down, feeling low, feeling like they can't do anything about their situation. The feelings of helplessness. Uncertainty often leads enforcers to feeling helpless about their situation. This is a common stressor. And so, if you are an enforcer listening to this workshop, and there are lots of uncertainties in your life, you likely are feeling burnt out. Because this is a common stress that if it persists over time will burn you out. Okay? So, now let's go over to the givers, or sensing feeling persona. A common stressor for givers is social conflict. Social conflict is something that often impacts the relationships in a giver's life, and because givers prioritize relationships in their life, social conflict tends to drain them so much, so fast. And it can often lead them to feeling very overwhelmed and also helpless in that they don't know what to do to address it. So, social conflict, common stressor for givers. So think about that. If you're a giver listening to this workshop, think about, are there conflicts in your life that are persistent, that just keep showing up over and over and over and over again? If there is, you might be feeling burnt out because of that. This could be at work, or it could be at home, or both. God forbid it's not both. Next, for innovators, intuitive thinkers, inefficiency, common stressor for these types. Innovators typically over rely on logical thinking, and they are quick to find where something's wrong in an environment. But when you turn that in on your life and think about, wow, am I constantly experiencing inefficiencies at work where I clearly have a solution in mind, but I'm not able to get that solution in play because there are barriers in my way that are just inefficiently placed there? Like I got to get approval for X, Y, and Z when this problem is hurting us professionally, hurting our work, hurting our productivity. Or maybe at home, right? Maybe there are things at home like you got a long commute and you want to work out in the evening and it's inefficient for you to work out in the morning. So you keep dealing with this issue of not being able to work out because you're staying too late. And so you got inefficiencies in your life and it's causing you to be stressed out. And that constant stress leads to burnout. I personally can relate to this because I don't like inefficiency. However, I know there are inefficiencies present in my life, so I have to be intentional in how I work through it. So if you're an NT, identify what are some inefficiencies in your life that could be leading you to feeling burnt out. Lastly, intuitive feelers, or my guiders out there, constant negativity tends to be a common stressor for your persona. Think about that for a moment. Who are the people in your life that likely are displaying or expressing constant negativity? And what does that actually sound or look like? It could look like putting others down, discouragement. It can look like, right, a lack of genuine curiosity or a lack of authenticity that is showing up in your space, right? That can lead to guiders being constantly stressed out. Another thing that's common of guiders, a common stressor of guiders is so many problems of other people being in your life, right? Like you're surrounded by people who have a lot of problems in their life, right? That can lead you to feeling burnt out because we know guiders like to solve other people's problems, especially social emotional problems. And so if you're taking on so many of other people's problems, you likely are going to feel burnt out, which would likely mean you need to figure out some ways to reduce that level of negativity and increase that level of positivity. That way you have at least a healthy balance of some sort. So if you're a guider, keep that in mind. Constant negativity is a common stressor for your particular persona. Now that I've talked about some common stressors and I've related burnout to your personality, now we go a little forward and we talk about how to cope with burnout. And in these last 10 minutes, I'm going to share with you these common ways to cope with burnout, but also we're going to get specific again as to what is a specific thing your particular persona can do to cope with burnout. So let's run through these steps. Step 1 is what we did in this workshop already. By this time in the workshop, you should recognize whether or not you're burnt out. Are you physically exhausted, emotionally exhausted, and dealing with prolonged stress? And we went even further in looking at, based on your persona, which you can figure that out on my website under self-discovery tools. You will be able to piece together, okay, Oren, I am burnt out. Step 2, reach out and seek support. Show up to these workshops. Contact Oren if you need additional help or if you want to become a part of the EQ crew to wash out that burnout, okay? Reaching out to support is really important because everybody needs somebody. And it's best that you share these emotional experiences rather than bottling it up. Step 3, trying a relaxing activity. If you're a workaholic, take a day off. Go for a walk. Do something that's going to relax your body. If you find that you're burnt out because of what's going on at home, try and change up your environment and go to a relaxing space, right? Maybe go get a massage or go to a park somewhere, or go, somewhere that's going to be relaxing to kind of soothe your body. Step 4, get some exercise in. This is really important for endorphin release, okay? Getting more exercise in increases your body's ability to navigate duress and stress, okay? So being physically active is going to be very helpful for increasing your resilience in navigating any sort of potential burnout situations. Step 5 is super crucial, and here's the thing, you've been doing it since you've been born. Get enough sleep. Sleep is your body's recovery process. If you are not getting enough sleep, how the heck is your mind and body going to recover from the burnout? It's not, right? And when we talk about enough sleep, doctors recommend 8 to 9 hours depending on, certain factors, right? I strive for 6 to 8, somewhere in there. That's what works for me. But get enough sleep, y'all. And lastly, this is a huge one. And I put this under step 6 as a general tool, a general coping mechanism, tactic for all types of people. And it's setting clear boundaries with work and home life. Nowadays, with so much technical work, it is easy, and especially the work for home vibe, it's easy to blend work in the home life, right? It's almost like it's all just work now. Everything's work. And it's important that you are able to set a clear boundary. Like, I will only spend X amount of hours on work. And then when this time comes, I'm not thinking about it. The apps go off, the email closes. I'm checked out. I'm detached. I'll reattach in the morning time. Home life. Don't let your home life flow into your work life. Now that can be really difficult, but you got to be able to set some level of boundaries on, what you're communicating about your home life at work, or what you're communicating at work in your home life. You want to be able to contain some of this, because otherwise it can really start to lead to that feeling of overwhelm, especially impacting the people around you. Okay. Now, you're probably wondering, all right, cool, Aaron, I like these, broad strategies, these broad coping mechanisms for burnout, but what about for me specifically? I'm an enforcer, I'm an ST, I'm a giver, I'm a SF, I'm a guider, I'm an NF, I'm an innovator, I'm an NT. Well, I got you. Here we go, right? We're going to get into that. So, specific solutions for your persona may look like such. If you are an enforcer, we want to triple down on establishing work-life boundaries, okay? I recognize that a lot of enforcer types really enjoy work. They tend to get a lot of meaning out of their work. But it's important to not let that be the source of all your meaning. Because if it is, that can lead you to being really overwhelmed in one area of your life. So, next, we have setting work hour limits. Being able to have a clear limit in place helps you be able to, one, know that rest is important, but two, it's going to help you realize that, hey, you know what? I need to detach from my work so that way I don't get too overwhelmed or experience this stress for so long, right? You got to build in those breaks, build in limitations for yourself. This is important for mind management and emotional management enforcers, which is super important, especially given the area of your personality enforcers that you need to work the most on, which tends to deal with emotional regulation and emotional clarity, okay? So that's your specific solution to my enforcers out there. Next, let's go to innovators. It's important for innovators to spend time with friends, family, and connect with nature. Innovators need to step out of the spaces where they're spending so much time maybe working and dealing with all the cerebral stuff they want to handle, and they need to get out into nature. Get out and feel more present and grounded in your surroundings. And also spend time with friends and family to really nourish those emotional aspects of yourself. This will help you get out of that potentially feeling of being overwhelmed or feeling of, being exhausted, and kind of refreshing you and restoring you to things that you typically may not spend as much time thinking about. So innovators, get that time in, get that social emotional time in with friends and family, and connect with nature. Get outside, go for walks, runs, get out in nature and experience that. For my givers, SFs, practicing self-compassion. Give yourself some grace, okay, givers? that for all the work that you do and, the amount of support you provide others, and in the face of that social conflict sometimes it's not your fault, right? And sometimes there's not something you can do about it to make other people happy and improve the social situation. And that's okay. What I'm doing right now is practicing self-compassion. It's okay that I'm not able to help this conflict here. I can be aware of it. I can observe. But maybe it's not my place to resolve this conflict, right? And in the case that it is your place to resolve the conflict, give yourself the time and space you need to be ready to do it. Which leads into the second part of this, prioritizing your time and energy. Oftentimes, givers will find themselves prioritizing other people's time and energy. For you to get over your burnout, prioritize your own time and energy and practice that self-compassion. Give yourself some grace. Lastly, for my guiders in here, my NFs, your specific solution is to take a break from technology. Log off the computers, log off the social media. Don't absorb so much of what's going on in the world, but really take the time to be with yourself. Give yourself time to relax. Give yourself time to focus on, what's going on, what's going well in your life, finding some gratitude. That's how you're going to get restored from maybe experiencing so much negativity. Is giving yourself the space to acknowledge and appreciate the gratitude that's in your life. So those are some specific solutions based on your persona on how you can cope and navigate through burnout. Now, as we think about closing out this type of workshop, I want you all to know that, again, burnout is very real. It happens a lot. And it often is prolonged emotional dysregulation, right? It's prolonged stress, prolonged frustration, prolonged overwhelm. And it's really important that we take steps to address it the moment we feel it. And that's what members of the Emotional Intelligence crew, the EQ crew, are all about doing. EQ crew members have set out to focus on their social and emotional skill development for life. Not just a 1 week, 2 week, 3 week program. We're talking for life. And they're doing it alongside others. And that's why we do these workshops for our EQ crew members. And for those who are aware, right, additional benefits of being a part of the EQ crew range from, again, personalized challenges and activities that we're going to be actually rolling out next week, an official personality assessment for greater self-discovery, mini courses on advanced application of emotional intelligence personality types. The list goes on and on. But these workshops that we do are for specifically benefiting the EQ crew that have, committed to working on this stuff for the rest of their life. And joining the EQ crew is a space for personalized and social emotional growth. And for those that want to know how to actually join the wait list, because we do have a wait list right now, as the leader of the EQ crew and the founder of InMotion, I am currently navigating through accepting people into this next round of folks. But I have a form on my website that you can put your name and number in, your email address to join the EQ crew. I'll reach out to you, have a conversation, see if it's a good fit. And if it's not, no worries. But I am on a mission for the next 60 plus years to drive emotional intelligence, social skill development into your life each and every day, because these skills are skills that will last forever. And these are important skills for you having a fulfilling life. And as we wrap up here, I hope you enjoyed the workshop on overcoming burnout. Let's put some of these strategies in place and let's go out and do the damn thing and improve our social and emotional well-being. Thanks for joining. Take care.